Have you ever met someone so quiet that you start wondering what's happening inside their mind? Not in a suspicious way, but in a way that makes you think, why do they speak so little, and yet feel so deep? Maybe it's that coworker who barely joins conversations. Maybe it's that friend who listens more than they talk. Or maybe it's you. Quiet people have a presence that's almost mysterious. They don't fill the air with noise. They don't rush to answer. They don't interrupt. They don't overshare. They just exist. Softly, calmly, intentionally. And here's the interesting part. People think quietness is simple, but psychology says otherwise. Silence isn't emptiness. It's a language, a signal, a strategy, a reflection of an entire world happening inside someone's mind. Quiet people don't talk less because they're weak, or insecure, or shy. Sometimes they are, yes, but that's only one version of the truth. The real truth? There are multiple types of quiet people. Different minds, different stories, different reasons behind the silence. Some stay quiet because their thoughts move slower. Some because their thoughts move faster. Some stay quiet because they're afraid of speaking. Some because they're not impressed by meaningless talk. Some stay quiet because life has worn them down. And some stay quiet because they've reached a level of inner peace others haven't found yet. Silence is not one thing. It is many things. Think about someone you know who doesn't talk much. When they sit in a room, the energy changes. Not because they're loud, but because they're the opposite. Their emotions don't leak through noise. They echo through presence. Maybe you've noticed, quiet people often observe what others miss. They read body language. They sense tension. They feel the room before speaking. They notice the look in someone's eyes, the tone in someone's voice, the pauses between sentences. Speech requires attention. Silence requires awareness. And that's why today we're going deeper, not just into why some people don't talk too much, but into the psychology behind their silence, the hidden patterns, the emotional wiring, the mental frameworks, the 4 types of quiet minds, and the stories behind them. This isn't a video about being introverted. It's a video about understanding the people who speak softly but feel strongly. People who say little but see everything. So let's begin. Let's open the door to the quiet mind. And once you step in, you might realize that silence has more meaning than you ever imagined. Before we talk about the 4 types of quiet people, we need to answer one simple question. Why does silence matter? Why does the human brain sometimes choose not to speak, even when it wants to? Why do some people use silence the way others use words? Because silence is not the absence of communication. It's a form of communication psychology calls it low verbal processing, meaning the brain doesn't rely on speaking to understand, analyze, or connect. Instead, quiet minds use internal dialogue, observation, emotional mapping, environmental scanning, pattern recognition. They don't speak to understand things, they understand things before speaking. Most people speak to think. Quiet people think before they speak. And that small difference creates a world of misunderstanding. Think about it. A loud person enters a room, they blend into the noise. A quiet person enters a room, suddenly everyone notices. Not because they're doing anything dramatic, but because silence is noticeable. It breaks the rhythm of chaos. When everyone else fills the air with words, the one who doesn't becomes interesting. Here's something people rarely realize. Talking is cheap. Silence is expensive. Talking requires social energy. Silence requires emotional control. Talking hides insecurity. Silence exposes confidence, or fear, or deep thinking. or exhaustion, or wisdom. Silence can mean many things, and that's why it's so misunderstood. Some people stay quiet because they're analyzing, some because they're masking, some because they're protecting themselves, some because they're comfortable, and some because the world is simply too loud for them to waste energy on noise. But here's the deeper truth. A quiet person's brain processes social cues, emotional signals, risks, outcomes, tone, intentions, before deciding what to say. That pause, you see? It's the brain running calculations, and this is why quiet people often appear calm, mature, mysterious, unpredictable, or extremely thoughtful. Because before they open their mouth, they've already opened their mind. And here's a psychological twist. Quiet people are rarely empty. They are often full of thoughts, full of emotions, full of internal conversations. They speak less, not because they think less, but because they think more. Silence is their filter, their shield, their comfort, their power. And now that you understand why silence matters, we can finally explore the deeper question. What type of quiet mind do you have? Time to meet the first one. The one who escapes conversations faster than anyone can notice. Let's meet the first type. A quiet person you've probably seen 1,000 times, but never fully understood. They're the one sitting in a group conversation, nodding occasionally, smiling politely, maybe even laughing at the right moments. But deep down, they're praying, "Please, don't call on me." It's not that they don't like people. It's not that they hate talking. It's that speaking in a group feels like stepping into a spotlight they never asked for. Picture this. Everyone is talking. Stories, jokes, arguments, opinions. The conversation bounces around like a ping-pong ball, fast, chaotic, unpredictable. And then, suddenly, someone turns to them. "So, what do you think?" Their brain. "Wait, me? Right now? Why? What was the question?" Repeat it. Analyze it. Pick a safe answer. Don't sound weird. Don't freeze. Don't mess this up. But their mouth? It says the oldest survival phrase in history. Yeah, what James said. And just like that, they pass the talking responsibility like a hot potato smooth. Silent, elegant, gone. This person is what psychology calls a conversational escape artist. Not because they're careless, but because their mind is too busy calculating the safest escape route. You know how some animals camouflage themselves by blending into their surroundings? This type does the same thing socially. They blend into conversations by not standing out. But here's the twist. They are not stupid. They are not slow. They are not uninterested. In fact, quiet escape artists are often highly observant, socially strategic, sensitive to group energy, excellent at reading tone, good at avoiding conflict, masters of redirecting attention. They don't avoid talking because they lack intelligence. They avoid talking because they've learned, often from a young age, that speaking can create risk, cause embarrassment, attract judgment, or put them in the center of attention they don't want. Their silence is not weakness, it's self-protection. Think about their childhood for a moment. Many of these quiet minds grew up in environments where being loud caused trouble, mistakes were punished, their opinions were dismissed, or emotional expression wasn't safe. So their brain developed a simple rule. The less I say, the safer I am. And now, as an adult, that pattern still lives inside them. When they're asked a question unexpectedly, their body tenses for 1 second, just a little, and then they switch to survival mode. Redirect the question, laugh it off, give the shortest answer possible, or act confused so someone else fills the silence. It looks like shyness, but it's actually strategy. It looks like insecurity, but it's actually emotional intelligence. They don't want to dominate conversations. They don't want to compete for attention. They don't want to perform socially to feel included. They want peace. They want safety. They want to avoid unnecessary noise. And here's the interesting part. In one-on-one conversations, they can talk normally. In deep conversations, they can open up beautifully. But in groups, their brain flips the switch. Hide. Observe. Blend. If you know someone like this, don't mistake their silence for disinterest. Their silence is a shield, one they've learned to use very, very well. And now, it's time to meet the second type of quiet mind. Someone who doesn't talk less because they're escaping, but because they're protecting the value of their words. Some quiet people don't stay silent because they're scared, or shy, or socially exhausted. Some stay quiet for a completely different reason. Because they only speak when it matters. You've probably seen this type before. They're the person who sits quietly during small talk, random gossip, boring topics, pointless arguments, who said what someone wore, who likes who. None of that activates their brain. But the moment the conversation shifts into something deeper, something meaningful, something with weight, everything changes. Their eyes light up, their posture shifts, their voice becomes alive. And suddenly, the quietest person in the room becomes the most fascinating speaker. Why? Because this type of quiet person values mental energy. They don't talk to fill silence. They talk to exchange meaning. Psychology calls them selective communicators. They don't waste words. They don't ramble. They don't talk just to hear themselves speak. They speak intentionally. To them, words equals energy. Energy equals precious. So they spend it wisely. You ask them about the weather? One-word answer. You ask them about their dreams, their philosophy, their ideas, the meaning of life? You unlock a universe. This type of quiet mind usually grew up feeling misunderstood, not in a dramatic way, but in a people don't follow my depth kind of way. So over time, they learned most conversations are shallow, most people don't listen deeply, most topics don't stimulate their mind, most noise drains them, most words get wasted, so they conserve energy. But here's the twist. They are not boring. They are not cold. They are not emotionally distant. In fact, they often feel deeply, more deeply, than the people who speak nonstop. Their silence is a filter, not a wall. They use silence to listen better, analyze more, understand people clearly, protect their peace, choose meaningful interactions. And here's something interesting. People often feel surprisingly comfortable around them. Something about their presence feels safe, grounded, stable. Why? Because selective speakers don't pressure conversations. They don't compete. They don't overwhelm. They don't dominate. They connect. Their calmness gives people space. Their silence gives people room. And when they finally speak, their words hit harder. A single sentence from them can feel deeper than 10 minutes of talking from someone else. They talk less, but say more. They speak softly, but impact powerfully. If you've ever met a person who stays quiet until the perfect moment, and then drops one sentence that makes everyone go, "Damn, that's true," that's this type. And now, it's time to meet the third type of quiet mind. The one who speaks less, not because they choose to, but because their thoughts feel louder than the world around them.